morning, everyone. My name is Nurliyana Safian, and I'm from Fire Science 2. And today I'm doing a book review on the book that I've read, which is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This book is about racism and injustice that happened in America. It's not a true story, but somewhat it is what that happens in this world nowadays. So this story tells about a girl named Star, a 16-year-old girl named Star. She lives in a poor black who is stuck between two worlds, which is the school that she goes to, Williamson Prep, and also her poor black neighborhood which she lives in, Garden Heights. So one weekend, when a shooting breaks up at a party that Star was attending, she was driven home by her childhood best friend Khalil. And on the way home, the car was stopped by a police officer. So the officer told Khalil to step out of the car for absolutely no reason. He just wanted to find a reason to put black people behind bars and to also discriminate black people. And when Khalil protested, the officer suddenly shouted at him. And after being searched, the officer went back to his patrol car. And Star's parents, Star remembered that her parents told her that it was not smart to move when a police had his back to you. But Khalil did exactly that. He opened the door to ask if Star was okay or not. And the officer fired 3 shots into Khalil's body. And the whole time, Star saw everything. Star then agreed to an interview with the police about the shooting after being encouraged by her uncle Carlos, who was a father figure to Star when her father was behind bars. Her father spent 3 years in prison for gang activity. Her father was then allowed to leave his gang, the King Lords, because he confessed to a crime to protect the gang leader, King. Khalil's death then became a national headline. The media portrayed him as a gang leader, a gangbanger, a drug dealer, and a thug, while portraying the white officer who killed him more favorably. Star's identity as witness was kept as a secret. She also kept a secret from her white boyfriend, Chris, and her best friend to keep her Williamson and Garden Heights personalities apart. Star's struggles with her identity complicated even more after her mother got a higher paying job and the family moved out of Garden Heights. After a grand jury failed to indict the white officer who killed Khalil, Garden Heights erupted into both peaceful protests and riots. So the failure of the criminal justice system to hold the officers accountable pushes Star to take an increasingly public role. She gave a television an interview, she spoke out during protests, which were met by police in riot gear. Her increasing identification with Garden Heights caused tension with the friends and also her boyfriend. So by the end of the novel, they started to stand up to racist comments made by certain people in Williamson Prep and supported Star. The climax of the novel occurred during a riot following the grand jury's decision. King was then arrested and expected to be imprisoned for a lengthy sentence. Star also promised to keep Khalil's memory alive and to continue her advocacy against injustice. Even though the setting of this book was in the US, as Malaysians living in a multiracial country, racism should never be implemented in each one of us. Everyone is just the same. The differences in us are what makes us unique. We should accept each other's differences to be able to live in peace and harmony. I think that if each one of us unite, we can make a huge impact, and not just in this country, but also in this whole wide world. We must unite and put our differences aside, despite our skin color, religion, belief, and most importantly, race. Because united we stand and divided we fall. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Keerthana from Fire Science 2. Today I'll be reviewing about a book that I've read before. I really love Mr. Midnight series. They have many collection and many collection of horror stories. In each Mr. Midnight series, there are always two stories in a book. And this is the story that I actually loved the most because every time, even I read it for more than 10 times, these books give me the same hit of fears in my body. This book has two stories, as I told you before. The first one is One Foot in the Grave, and the second story is We Will Always Be Watching by James Lee, the author of this book. The first story tells about a guy named Siew discovered a human foot laying beside a grave in an old cemetery. Where did it came from? Velasco figures it out. So he picked in to see where is another part of the lake. And there's where his worst nightmare starts. The second story tells about a girl. The second story, that is We Will Always Be Watching, tells about a story about a girl named Audrey goes on a school trip to Australia. She and her friends stayed at a very unusual hotel. It used to be a mental hospital, and the mad ghosts are still loitering in the hotel. And the mad ghosts told her that we be always watching. And in Mr. Midnight series, this is not only the book that he published. There is many books. You can actually see from the back page. There's many good horror story from Mr. Midnight series. Each of the story has their uniqueness in them. And whenever you read Mr. Midnight story, I guarantee you will be in the depth of fear. I actually encourage every one of you to try out Mr. Midnight series. If you're not interested in this title or in this story, you may try the other collection of Mr. Midnight series. He has a lot of collection. Example, The Photograph Ghost, and so on. I hope my review on this book help you guys to study and help you guys to read storybooks from Mr. Midnight series. Thank you. Bye.
Hi everyone, I am Jee Xuan from 5 Science 2. Today, I am going to do a book review about Everything I Ever Told You by Celeste Ng that was published in 2014. This was a very popular book back then, and it was rated a 5-star by a lot of readers. This book follows a Chinese-American family that lives in a small town in Ohio in America. The story revolves around Lydia, who is the middle child of the family and had an elder brother and a younger sister. Lydia is basically the star child of the family, and she was found dead. Lydia is dead, but you don't know this yet. This beginning makes you wonder what actually happens to Lydia and prompts you to read on to know the cause of Lydia's death. You start to get the perspective of different characters in the novels, for example, the father, the mother, Lydia, the elder brother Nathan, and the younger sister Hannah, of different people in their lives that surround them. The author writes in a third-person point of view, and you get to know the inner workings of the character's mind. You get to know the emotions and their feelings. This family and sibling-driven plot is easily relatable to a lot of us because we all have family members and some of us do have siblings. The familial and parental relationship in this story is also the essence of the book.
This story talks about the expectations that parents have on their children's, certain things that they didn't manage to achieve in their lives. For example, the father was Chinese, living in America. He was unique, he didn't have a lot of friends, he wasn't popular, and he was different. He projects these desires for Lydia, hoping that she would be the popular one, she would have a lot of friends, she would live in a teenage dream life. He projects this desire for Lydia, hoping that she would be popular, she would living. He projects this desire for Lydia, hoping that she would be popular, she would have a lot of friends, and she would be living in this American dream life. But Lydia is just ordinary, like a lot of us. The mother, on the other hand, projects her life expectations on Lydia. Her mother wanted to become a doctor. She wanted to pursue her education, but she got married, she got pregnant, and she decided to settle down. She became the housewife that she hated, just like her own mom. She doesn't want Lydia to follow her footsteps to become an ordinary housewife, but she wants Lydia to be better than her, just like a lot of parents hoping that your child is better than their parents. Lydia is just not the type of material to become a doctor. This story shows you little insights and little flashbacks around the story. The storylines jumps from the present to the past, but it's very interesting type of writing. You get to know the characters' emotion, the characters' feelings about the story, about the things that's happening, and it makes characters very alive, and the characters' history is very well developed. You can actually connect to the emotions of the characters. The review at the end is kind of ambiguous. I think that it didn't really answer the question specifically, but I think it is okay because in life we will eventually have to move on, just like the characters have to move on Lydia's death. This story isn't a typical mystery and death stories like Sherlock Holmes or anything like that. It's something that you never expected it to be. If you are looking for something interesting to pick up, do try out this book. Try to read out this book. And I think that you wouldn't regret it. Thank you.